starting take two in 3, 2, 1, go! Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to Take Two right here. You got it on the Voices on the Net network. Yet another episode of the program. Ronnie and I are back. Hey, Ronnie, how are you?
I'm great. Nice to be back. See, back by your side. Another show.
Another show. Another show. Another show. Seems like that's the case. Well, it is the case each and every day. It's just, it happens each and every day. So I guess it's just life for us. That's it.
Yeah.
Some people do a show every week. Some people do a show every other week. We do a show every weekday. And, we try to change. Seeing that could become repetitive a lot every day. We don't give you a chance to miss us. That's why we try to take breaks we give you the chance to miss us. And the weekends, clearly, we get off. But we do a show every weekday. So it does, we have that challenge of it becoming repetitive, so we have to actually find itineraries we have to create itineraries that are unique and not repetitive. So we do our best with that. But we do have a great itinerary today. We really do. So you're going to want to stay tuned. We're going to have Ronnie make it official. As she does at the beginning of every episode, she announces the episode number to make it official. A great part of the show. Popular part of the show. We're not going to stop that trend. But before we get into that and everything else, if all of you tuned in right now would be so kind, would you please visit www.theonthenet.com. That is right, the Voices on the Net Network's website, where you, the great listeners, will be able to find more information pertaining to the Voices on the Net Network. All you need to do is go up to the top of the website where you will see an About link. You click it, and it will take you to a web page providing you everything you need to know regarding the network in thorough detail. A great web page for those of you that are new to the web, or new to the network for that matter. You don't know much about it. Rather than me or, of course, Ronnie or I explaining it to you, you go to the web page and it will give you everything you need to know. You can also check out podcasts of any of the episodes from any of the shows, and they're all available on demand for and at your very own convenience. And, you can check everything out by going to www.theonthenet.com. All right, Ronnie, guess what? It's time to make it official. And that's right, we've reached yet another episode of the show, and you're going to do the honors and announce the episode number for us.
We've reached the halfway point to the next mini milestone, which means we are at episode 275.
There you have it. Episode number 275, halfway there to the next mini milestone. Guess what, Ronnie?
What?
I touched the volume knob.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we were talking about the most random things. I know. Those of you listening to the podcast, you probably you don't know what's going on unless you listen to the live show. But I was talking about the fact that on the mixer seat, I run a main mixer board in the studio here, and the volume knob is shorting out. I need a new mixer badly, but come to that fact, you need money to do that. Obviously, it's not a very easy time for me right now. Then again, not for everybody, but especially me. It's really, really tough for me. But the volume knob is shorting out. So every time you touch it, it kind of, you won't hear it, but I will. In my monitors, one side will kind of go a bit lower than the other. It will shift. It's annoying, and it will make that staticky sound like that. Mm-hmm. Very annoying. But if you get it in, I'm telling you, the level of detail, and there's very little room for any error whatsoever. Any time you move, it has to be in the perfect position for it to be, the way it's supposed to be. I have it perfect now. I'm lucky that I got it in the right place. But sometimes when I talk or sometimes when I play audio, in my monitors, it's too loud. For you, it's not, but in my monitors, it's too loud. That's why the volume control allows me to hear, something may be really low on your end, but I could increase it on my end as loud as I want it or as low as I want it. That's why it gives you the chance to do that, the opportunity to do that. So it's very important to have one, but it shorts out. It's shorting out. I'm lucky it still works, but it's annoying. It's just another tech nuisance, but you know what? It's my baby. It's lasted, let's see. Ooh, I could say I had this back in the Jersey's Classic Rock days, so we're talking well over 3 years I've had it. Well over 3 years I've had this mixer. So, and it's lasted that long. I wish it lasted that long. It should last 5 years or more. So hopefully I could get just a little more out of it, because within the next 6 months, money should be coming in for me. So hopefully, that's the case. All right, well, enough talking about that. You don't want to hear about the tech problems that I have. Ooh, what the heck? We are at yet another episode of the show. We have a great itinerary for you all. What we're going to start things off here, I want to talk about this very interesting article. A very interesting article. Ronnie actually found this. And I'm really looking forward to going into this. You're dating a girl, and you find out that her best friend is a guy. This probably goes on with quite a few of you listening, actually. I've had this problem, too. Is it really a problem? Did I just say that? Freudian slip. Sorry. Yeah. Clearly, there are issues that can arise, but then again, people can just be they could be over dramatizing the situation. I'm not going to say anything else. I want to hear what Ronnie has to say. She found this, and I know she has a lot to say. Where do you stand with this? Now, obviously you date guys, not girls, unless you're gay, but you're not. But the fact of the matter here is, if you were to say, put yourself in a guy's position, we're gonna go into the double standard or whether there is one. But say you're a guy and your girl is best friends with a guy. What do you do? What's the case here? Or do people just over dramatize the situation?
When I was reading that article, I realized that I had a double standard, because I have guys that are friends of mine that I talk to, I'll hang out with, that we're not in a sexual relationship of any kind. We're just best friends, we see each other. Right. And then if the guy happens to have a best friend that's a girl, I do not like it one bit. Right. Because if I'm dating you, I expect to be the best quote friend.
Exactly.
Than that. So I have a double standard on it. On that, when I realized, I was like, whoa.
Well, you have a double standard?
Both sides of the fence.
You have a double standard, or is there a double standard?
I think there is a double standard.
Okay.
Because everybody, I see women out there that just go completely nuts. I don't go off the board on that issue, however. But I know there are women out there that when a male, their boyfriend, happens to be the best friends to a female,
right,
they do everything they can to break up that best friend relationship, because they want to be the sole female. They consider her competition. And of course, in women being territorial, that's what occurs most of the time. So I think there is a complete double standard.
Right. Now, there are many different scenarios here. One could assume that if you're dating a girl, we'll talk about that factor first, then we'll go into the opposite. You're dating a girl, guy's dating a girl, and the girl has a guy best friend that she could talk to that guy best friend about things, not necessarily keep things away from the boyfriend, but that guy, she knows that guy isn't going to turn around and stab her in the back. That friend is going to last longer than, possibly in more cases, than the boyfriend, because chances are that relationship is not going to last long term. And I don't want to sound negative. That's just the truth, guys and gals. If you're in a relationship, great. You love each other, apparently. You're dating, great. I'm happy for you. But the chances are that you're not going to last. The odds are not in your favor, believe it or not. They're not. You think the chances are you're going to get married to the person you're dating right now? Put that into the equation right now. Those of you listening that are dating somebody, you think you're going to get married? I guarantee more than 75% of you don't. More than 90% of you don't. So the chances are that somebody that has a best friend that's the opposite sex will probably have that special bond with them. And I'm speaking out of experience myself because that's how my ex-girlfriends have, well, I've portrayed it, blatantly spewing it into my face, Mm-hmm. Clearly I would be jealous. I am, in many cases, the jealous type. Many cases, the female wants that from a guy. Let me make them jealous. Then I know they love me. So there's a lot of different factors here. Then again, you talk about, well, if this female is best friends with the guy, why the hell aren't they dating them? If they could talk about anything with them. Clearly, the guy's ugly and the best friends, well, maybe it goes a lot farther than that. Clearly, looks don't matter. Or maybe they do matter. Maybe you don't want to breach that line. You are best friends with them because of that. You knew them when you were younger because your parents were friends, or you could connect with them. See all of the different scenarios I just brought up there? I brought up about 3 or 4 different ones there, and they all make perfect sense.
Yeah, I'm going to throw mine out there because some of the guys that I'm friends with, or one of them that I'm very, very good friends with, we've known each other for a long time. He considers me his baby sister. So,
yeah.
So I can go to him, even though there is no bloodline between us or anything like that. But there's nothing that we would even cross that line because he's like my older brother. That's how we treat each other. And, he'd come to my defense regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
And I've had guys that would be upset because of that friendship. Because if there's a problem, I go to him instead of the guy that I was with or whatever, and that really caused a big problem. Or some guys, what is he gay? Is there a reason why you guys are not together? And it's like, no, he's got girlfriends all over the place. I'm just the sister.
Right. A great article on AskMen.com, and it goes into this. Some of it's quite common sense. And you're going to get that in an article. When I read the comments, I love, this article, like we didn't know, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Well, the thing is, when you're writing an article, most of the time, and I'm a writer, as a writer I could say this, you have to add a bit of common sense to an article. You have to, because not everybody's going to get what you think is common sense. Not everybody's going to read what they're reading and get what you get out of it. Because it's just like a musician, for instance, playing different set lists each and every night. They have to throw in the hits. They have to throw in songs that they play every night because there are going to be a lot of fans that don't go multiple nights. There are going to be fans that only go once a tour. So if they don't play the hits that they played the last night, that fan's going to complain. And believe it or not, there are more people, casual, we call them, casual fans, that go to the once-a-night shows. More casual fans that simply go for the hits, not the die-hard, rarities. So that's similar to an article. They have to intrigue a casual audience and the audience that may be, I don't want to say smarter because I don't want to say that. But there are people that may get from an article, or maybe know more about whatever the article's topic or topics are about. So you have to intrigue both sides of the audience. You have to. Mm-hmm. So regardless, I just wanted to go into that. I know, kind of a little off topic, but this article did go into quite a few common sense things, but also some not so common sense things. For instance, one of them, and one would say, and I think Ronnie, you'd agree with me here, find out their history is one of the sub points in this article. So you're telling me you're going to, I guess it's not, if you're going out with somebody, is it out of the ordinary that you're going to ask your girlfriend, hey, honey, what is this guy all about? What is his past? This, that, and the other thing. You're going to ask your girlfriend about the guy that she's best friends with past. Is that going to be kind of perceived as being snoopy? You're trying snooping in. I don't know. I mean,
curious.
Yeah, curious, right? I'm just saying that isn't as common sense. I perceived it as not as common sense because clearly, if you're the jealous type, you're probably going to do it regardless. But would you go right out and just simply find out about the best friend by asking questions and so forth, or even taking matters into your own hands and doing it yourself by approaching your girlfriend's best friend and asking questions.
Well, I think also with that same concept, because if you're best friends, aren't you going to introduce them to
You would hope.
Your new one, to let them know, hey, there's no competition here. This is who they are. This is what they are. This is what we're about. And there's nothing between us. But then it also brings up another whole different concept. Can you be friends?
Right.
Can males and females be friends without any kind of, sexual thing going on?
Well, yeah, because the thing is, and let's not be naive here, folks. More than likely, if you're friends with the opposite, best friends, I got to remember that, not friends, best friends with the opposite sex, there are chances there are going to be at one point or another sexual feelings there. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it is. If you're best friends, more than likely you're inviting that best friend over your house multiple times. You're in a room with the opposite sex, and you have somewhat of you have. How could I say this? Feelings in some term with that person. Maybe not feelings you would have if they were your boyfriend, but comparable feelings. Because you're in the same room, you're best friends with them, you share a lot with them. Emotionally, that can lead to other things. Because if you're in the room with the opposite sex, and let's not be naive, because I read a lot of the comments, that were naive. I did, and that were commenting on this article. And if you're naive about this, well, come on now. Not everybody's going to be in this situation, but a lot of people will. A lot of people will. If you're best friends with the opposite sex, you can probably ask a group of 250 people that have females that have guys as best friends, and I bet you more than half of them have slept with them.
Probably.
I bet you. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I have not.
I didn't say
I'll
you.
be one of those. I did not do that. But
I never said you did.
It depends on the kind of relationship that you have with your friend. Like if you've grown up with this person, you've known this person your entire life.
Right.
Maybe if there was a twinge, that's probably why you two would be together if it was for that fact. But
right.
There's some people out there that just don't. They become friends with those that they're not sexually attracted to for that one specific reason is for that. But there is jealousy that still goes on in that relationship because the guy who thinks that you should be with a certain guy, every guy you get, they put down, this is not for you. This is not the way it's supposed to be. And then there becomes some kind of a hardship between the two of you. But as far as sexual attraction, yeah, I think that you can to a degree. I think it depends on the relationship and how it started. But for the general part, I think it's a little difficult for the sexual part doesn't come into play at some point.
Yeah. Another one here that's in this article, find him a girlfriend. Yeah, I guess taking matters into your own hands stands with this one, obviously, because clearly as a guy, you have plenty of guy friends, right? Well, hopefully you have plenty of girl friends because that is, well, clearly a factor here. Clearly, if you have a lot of guy friends, you hope that maybe some of those guy friends have girlfriends, and their girlfriends have girlfriends. Understand? So, going down the line, clearly this would probably be a smart thing to do if you think about it. Mm-hmm. This also can mean, or can show, that if the guy that is best friends with your girlfriend does not accept the girlfriend, clearly there might be something going on between your girlfriend and the guy friend. Because you're not even going to let the guy know that you're setting him up with a girl. She's just going to approach that guy and do whatever it is, the girl's going to do to try and seduce him. And then, if the guy says, hey, you know what, I'm kind of seeing somebody, lo and behold, you don't know that. You assume it, perceive it. He says that to the girl you're trying to set the guy up with. You can obviously assume something may be up. And these are just, I guess, ways you can, be a little sneaky and try and, yeah. I understand what the article's saying here. It's just, don't be naive into thinking because if you are in love with a female and she has a best friend that's a guy, you're going to have certain perceptions. It's just the way it is. It's human nature for a guy to do it. What about the other side? Girls. girls that are dating a guy that have girlfriends. Ronnie says there's a double standard here because of females. One could argue they tend to be even more jealous than guys. Yep. Ronnie, you could attest to that, and you've brought it up
very
before.
Territorial.
Right.
Yeah, because if you've got a relationship with a girl and you happen to be my guy, then there's something you're sharing with, there's something that you're sharing that you're not sharing with me, basically, is kind of the perception that you get as a girl.
Yeah.
So you consider that as she needs to go.
Mm-hmm. It's just because I remember all of the times that I dated my ex-girlfriends, and I remember a few of them having, a few of them having a best friend that's a guy. And I wonder, am I not giving this girl what she wants? Because I noticed they would talk to those guys. I noticed they would talk to them more than I'd like them to. I understand they have those guys as friends. I understand that. But it's like, why? You could talk to them, but in front of me, and they would talk on the phone in front of me. They would call, they're like, just excuse me, and so forth. You wonder, it's like all of these signs, yet they would still show attraction and the emotion I like towards me. So it's like, what's going on here? Am I not giving you what you want? Am I not giving you what you, I guess, need? Because clearly the guy you're talking to, your best friend is. Or is there a line, a boundary where, hey, there's just things you can't talk to me about? I don't buy that. Mm-hmm. There has to, if you're dating me, and I understand there are going to be secrets, but what I don't know won't hurt me, okay? So that's where I draw the line. I could assume there's going to be secrets. I can assume you're going to talk to your guy best friend about things that you don't talk to me about, but don't shove it in my face, in other words. Don't let me know about it. And I think that's what a lot of people would attest to, that fact that happens. And that one, the author brought that up in the article here. People talking in front of other people, or somebody in the comment section brought it up. Maybe, I can't quite remember, but either or, it happens to a lot of people. And it's just I'm not saying any names, but it has happened to me before. You feel kind of bad. You do feel bad emotionally. You're like, what's going on here? Tell me what I'm doing wrong. Or maybe, am I doing anything wrong? Or you're just trying to make me jealous? Do you want me to get jealous so you could make me prove to you that I do have feelings for you? There are a lot of games that go on within relationships. Now, I've been single for over 2.5 years. Any reason behind that, maybe? Oh, no. I'd like to find a girlfriend, but I'm not going to say that it hasn't been the case that I don't want that drama, maybe. The times that I enjoy being alone, I do enjoy, but I do miss having companionship. However, there is still the drama side to it, but then again, there's drama in it, just about anything. So
yeah, I understand that. I've been single for you wouldn't even go into how long that's been.
Right.
But I know that when I would have a problem, or let's just say that my friend would have a problem and they would call me and I would be on a date, or I was basically friends with a guy and we hadn't crossed that line of being in a relationship yet, but my best friend would call me for some advice. Argument would ensue because it was as though my friend was infringing on my boyfriend's time. That was the wrong impression that he was getting, because that was not what was going on. He would have a problem, or somebody was sick, or he needed some assistance, moving or whatever it would be, and he'd call me. I mean, that was just the way it was. But the guy really took offense to that, because he would call at the inopportune moments, I guess you could say. We would be on a date, or we would be walking around or doing whatever, and when he would call, he took that as a violation of his time.
Yeah.
And that really wasn't the case. It was just he was asking for advice, as as we do if the friend was with the same sex. Would it be any different?
Right. Absolutely. Glad I did go into this with you, Ronnie. Great find. As always, could always count on Ronnie for finding the great articles out there. We got to go into your associations on this 275th episode of Take Two right here on You Got It, folks. The Voices on the Net Network. We've got some great associations for you. Also coming up, Ronnie's stamp of reparation. But before we get into all of that, you know what time it is, y'all. It is time to thank our sponsor. This portion of Episode number 275 is brought to you by Audible.com, and we thank Audible for their generous support of the Take Two program, as well as the Voices on the Net network. Now listen up, ladies and gents. We've got a great deal for you, Ronnie and I, and you guys and gals don't have to spend a single dime, yeah. With over 85,000 audiobooks to choose from. 85,000 and counting, I should say, because they're always adding new audiobooks to the service. Really the premier service on the net. Well, we're going to give you one free audiobook and a 14-day, a 2-week free trial to browse the 85,000 plus audiobooks at Audible. If you're an avid reader, even if you're not an avid reader, more than likely you enjoy watching TV or movies, or you like listening to music or podcasts or radio shows on your computer or your MP3 player, right? Well, the auditory experience gives you that experience. It does. Provides you that. Just that. Close your eyes when you're listening to the voiceover artist read you the book. That's exactly what it is, the auditory experience. You're retaining auditory retainment from the audio, the voiceover reading you the book, rather than traditionally reading word for word. Great experience, really is. And the voiceover artists add a lot of dramatic appeal, comedic appeal, so much to it. Try it out. You'll be glad you did. audibletrial.com/take2 is the link. That is audibletrial.com/take2 to take advantage of one free audiobook and a 14-day free trial to browse the collection or selection, my mistake, of audiobooks offered at Audible. You'll be glad you did. As always, we thank Audible for their support of Take Two, as well as the Voices on the Net network. The link is audibletrial.com/take2. All righty, Ronnie, do you want to start us off with an association over there for the 275th episode of the show?
Sure. There's one going on right now. As of June 1st, 2011, we had a spelling bee that is encompassing going on here. We have 275 contestants.
Wow.
8th grade level and below, which involves Japan, Guam, New Zealand, of course, United States, and South Korea. And we have one 8-year-old, 2 9-year-olds, and a 13-year-old, along with the rest of those that are under the grade level of 8th grade.
Yeah, I can tell you back when I was in, middle school, when I was in elementary school, all through my grammar school years, and I still am. I'm not saying I'm not still, but I just go back to that. That was something that I was really good at, spelling. We had a few just smaller spelling bees, and that were simply contained in the school, compounded to the school, and that I was in. That I went to, and I always did very well. I won a couple of them. I came in second, another one. I did very well. It was always a great speller, and it's great to see or hear. It's great to read. I did read that article. It's great to hear that there are so many people interested in spelling better. It really is, because. Right. You look on the internet, and I understand there's internet lingo out there. People misspell because it's internet, quote-unquote, internet lingo. But it really is, it really gets on my nerves. It's just something that bothers me. It's a pet peeve of mine when I see people that spell things wrong or things that are trivial to spell. It's like, didn't you learn how to spell? The different theirs. Come on now. This is trivial. That kind of bothers me. So that's always been a pet peeve of mine. Yeah, I've always been a good speller. I love reading that. I really do. Very cool.
I was impressed. They actually have it on. If you go to ESPN, you can actually watch it.
Yeah, very cool.
Pretty interesting. These kids, the words they spell. What was ibuprofen?
Yeah, there are some pretty tough ones actually that they spell.
So let me grab my pill bottle. Let me check it out. Okay.
Yeah, and they do air it on ESPN. They have for quite some time. That's always cool to watch those kids do their thing. All right, I've got an association for you car lovers out there. More than likely, you know all about this car. This is a friggin' classic, and I say that with emphasis. Classic. It really is. The Ferrari 275, or the 275 GTS for that matter. Oh my goodness, is this beautiful. There was a car show in my town. They had this featured. Oh, this is so beautiful. I would love to have this car. Back in 1967, we're talking about. Way back. It is a beauty. Yeah, it's you get quite a few looks in this one. Yeah, the Ferrari 275 features a 3.3 liter V12 engine. Yeah,
Ooh.
pretty beautiful stuff here. It's awesome. Colombo 60-degree V12 engine. My mistake. For you car lovers, you know what that is. But I'll tell you, when I saw it, I drooled. It's so beautiful. I love Ferraris anyway. Then again, who doesn't?
Yeah.
They're a little out of my price range, but they're beautiful cars. The Ferrari 275 GTS. Very cool.
Nice.
All right, what about some funny laws? We got to get into your stamp of reparation. So let's head into that.
I have
funny law
one
part.
really good funny law.
All right.
One. This is in Georgia state law. And a matter of fact, it's still in existence. It's been revised 3 different times. It is subsection code 16-12-275.1. And it is illegal to purchase or possess marital aids.
Marital aids.
Sex toys.
Sex toys.
Yep. There was one person in 1968 that was actually convicted under this law. And not to mention the fact, it's just not in Georgia, I found out. It's also in Utah, Idaho, Arizona, Oklahoma, Minnesota, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina.
You know, they make drugs illegal, and what people shove in their mouths, one could argue, it's their body. Let them do what they want.
Yeah.
But sex toys, what people shove into their bodies, should be their choice.
That's
maybe?
their choice, I would
Yeah.
think. And how are you going to
Yeah.
improvise this law?
Exactly. I could see the drug argument, but sex toys, not so much.
No.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
takes a special police force, I think.
All right, Ronnie. Let's go into your stamp of reparation. What do you got for us?
Oh, we're going to Florida this time, and this is finally, it's about time, and I think every state should go through this because, you know what, we have a right to know where our money is going, and if you're using our tax dollars, by golly, I want to know that it's being used for the purpose and intent. In Florida, Governor Scott is actually presenting a law, and it has gone into effect, except, of course, you know, the ACLU has to put in their bandwagon every time you turn around, that when you are going to apply for public assistance, you know, food stamps, Medicaid, this sort of thing, that before you can be considered, that you must pass a drug test. It means that this individual will have to apply for, you know, go and have the test done before they can apply for benefits, which means they will pay for it first. If they pass the drug test, the state will reimburse them for the cost of the test, which is anywhere from $18 to $25 to test to determine the different kinds of marked up drugs that would be in your system at the time.
Right.
This is no problem with me. A lot of people out there agree with the governor, except maybe for the ACLU. Of course, everything they think of, it happens to be unconstitutional. There's absolutely nothing to do with the United States Constitution because the Constitution has to deal between you and the federal government. What the Constitution does not dispel towards the federal government is then dispensed to the states. This is state money, state funding, state taxpayers. The Constitution therefore does not apply. They're trying to indicate that the Fourth Amendment, which states basically you coming into your house and, you know, going through your things, freedom of protections from that. This has nothing to do with that. You are an individual. You are going out there and you are the one applying for benefits. If that's the case, then you need to be mandated as to what you're going to do to jump through the hoops to get that. Why should we pay for someone's drug habits? That's not our responsibility. We want to make sure that the money is going into your kids. This is who it's for. This is what it's supposed to help support. Let alone when you are at work and you happen to be exposed to a drug test, you have to comply or guess what? You're out of the door. Nothing is wrong with this law, but the ACLU has filed a lawsuit, which is completely bogus in my opinion, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I am glad that Governor Scott, and I think there's 49 other states that should do the same thing with those benefits. Make sure money where they're going to. It's our responsibility, I think.
Well, I see where the governor's going here. You don't want to have people pay for people's drug habits. I understand that. I know you want to make sure, but then you're also assuming that those that are on welfare are simply drug addicts because of the amount of lower class people that maybe are not as fortunate to have money as opposed to other people, may be more prone to drug addictions as opposed to those that have money, which is kind of counterintuitive because you need money to do drugs more than likely. So you would assume the rich people would be more prone to doing drugs. It's not racially. I'm not trying to be racist here. It's just how it is. It tends to be that way. So that seems to me that that's one of the major problems here with people that are against this.
The problem is that when you're filing, there actually are people out there that file for disability,
right?
Because they have a drug habit. That's not our responsibility to pay for. You being on drugs is not considered a disability. I mean, I don't see it on the Disability Act anywhere. That's something that a judge will implement, and they're getting this money. I think that because of where the money is coming from, which is our tax dollars, they want to make sure where it's going, that you're not going to be using it for drugs. You're using it for a specific purpose, like feeding your kids. That when you get this is going to be anybody that applies. So regardless of what background you are or what culture you come from,
right?
You're
But Ronnie, understand this. You're going to apply if you need money. That's the fact, Jack. All right? It's not the fact that, okay, let's single out these people. It's those that are applying for these benefits that need them. You're not going to, a majority of them are going to need them. Sure, you're going to have a couple of flies in there that are going to, let's try to screw the system, but you can't count those people. You can't, because you're talking about the majority of the people that are actually applying because they need these benefits. Now, understand that the governor's doing this because it just so happens, and not trying to say anything bad about Florida, great state, by the way, just happens to be a very, very popular drug location. There are drug locations that are very prominent compared to other parts of the United States of America. Just so happens to be that way. So the governor takes that into account because of that. So they want to make. He wants to make. Listen, he's making a decision. I do support that decision. I do. Absolutely. I do understand those that are against it, though. I do. Because you look at drug companies, private companies that do drug test people because they want to make sure that people are not high when they're doing their job. That's their decision. You do not have to go to that job if you don't want to. Now, if you're applying for benefits, more than likely you are without money. You obviously don't have many ways to go. You could go find a job if you want to, or you can follow the system. They're going to reimburse your money if you pass, so you have nothing. What do you have to hide? So these are all factors to take into consideration here. But I do support this guy. I do support what he's doing. I do. I understand where he's coming from because it's just precautionary. They wants to make sure that the money's not going towards the drugs. I understand that. Yeah, absolutely. I do.
Yeah. I don't see a problem. The only problem I see is the ACLU. Every time you turn around, you're trying to instill the right way to go about it. I mean, he's not singling anybody out. Everybody is going to be doing it.
Right.
Then, of course, the ACLU comes along and says, hey, wait a minute, your constitutional rights. No, the Constitution is between the federal government and the citizens on the first 10. After that, the states have the right to determine where their money is going to be going. And this is a state-funded program within that jurisdiction.
Right.
I think the ACLU has gone way off the board on this. Of course, they have done so in the past at least 10 years on some of these cases that they take up for a, quote, cause to remain in the news.
The one thing that I do have with this, though, and I don't know the anomalies that are within this. I don't, but I'd have to look more into it. Perhaps you do, but we do have to go to the break. I just want to bring this up here. Those that are getting off of whatever substance they may be on, and good for you guys and gals, but those that are getting off of them, it may take a little longer for some people to get sober. So if they do take a drug test and they do come up positive, that's going to be a problem for those people. They're not going to get benefits, and they're going to have to shell out the $25 to do so. So I don't know if they're going to, listen, let's talk to this individual. Are you going to get sober? Are you working on getting sober? Let's give you the money. Let's give you the benefits, or we don't trust you, because we put you in a group of people that are simply going to use the money to buy drugs or alcohol or whatever. So that's going to be a problem, I think, down in Florida. And anywhere, for that matter, that would initiate something like that. So that's why, while I agree with this person, the governor for doing this, there are things that I find are going to be a problem. So I'm not 100%. I do agree, but I'm not 100% because it sounds like there are some anomalies. I'd have to look more into the law. And I'm going to look into the law after the show. All right, got to go to the break on this 275th episode of the show. Ronnie and I will be back before you even have the chance to miss us. What we're going to be going into a lot. We've got a lot to go into coming up during the second segment. An interesting study. Yeah. An interesting study that finds the way one talks has a lot to do with how persuasive they are to the opposing party. Do you remember, folks, do you remember the person with the really high-pitched, deep, really high-pitched voice? How annoying they were? Or how about the one with the really deep voice, You remember those people? Did you find it hard to listen to the one that was really high-pitched? Did you find it easier maybe to listen to the one that had the deeper voice? How about one that actually took longer pauses between sentences? Were they easier to listen to? What about the ones that just talk really fast? Were they annoying? Yeah, we're going to go into this here. An interesting study. This kind of has to do with Ronnie and I. We're broadcasters. We talk a lot. Also, how to deal with online trolls. I know. We talked about this before on the show, but we're going to go more into this here. Yeah, because it seems that more and more people, quote unquote, feed the trolls. However, how do you find out who a troll is? What is a troll? How do you know if somebody's trolling? What about people that post random negative comments on videos just to get attention? How do you deal with them? Well, as I guess I could say, I'm somewhat of an expert because I run a netcast network, and there are quite a few trolls that tend to try to get a rise out of me. So how do I deal with them? How does Ronnie deal with them? We're going to touch on this a bit more. Also, your blast from the past coming up at the end of the program. You don't want to go anywhere, folks, because we have a great second segment coming up on this 275th episode of the show. Ronnie and I return right after the break, so don't go anywhere. And we're back. That is right. Ronnie and I have returned for episode number 275 of Take Two right here on the Voices on the Net Network. Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate it immensely. Each and every episode, you and everybody else. If I say you and everybody else, you're probably going to think I'm talking to you and you and you and you. So I should probably just say everybody else, not to single anybody out. Because you could mean, well, you, or you. Or me, or Ronnie. You. Well, not me. I'm me. Ronnie's you. Okay, that's enough. I confuse myself sometimes. That's kind of part of the whole thing here. But we're back. Yet another episode, yet another segment for this 275th episode of the show. And we're going to get into all of the good stuff in just a moment. But if all of you tuned in right now would be so kind, would you please visit www.VOnTheNet.com. That is right, the Voices on the Net Network's website, where you will be able to find more information regarding the network. All you need to do is go up to the top of the website, click the About link. It will take you to a web page that will provide you everything you need to know pertaining to the network and in thorough detail. Great web page for those of you that are new to the web or the network. Check that web page out to get everything you need to know. You can also check out podcasts of any of the episodes from any of the shows, and they're all available on demand for and at your very own convenience. And you could check everything out by going to www.VOnTheNet.com. Alrighty, folks, we're back. Ronnie, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know what? What's up?
Long trip, huh?
Yeah, it seems as the breaks, even though it's not that long of a time, it's longer than it seems, maybe.
I know.
I guess it depends on what you're doing, I guess. That seems, just like anything else, it's like you're waiting for your class to end, right? Mm-hmm. You're waiting for a 40-minute class to end, but it feels like 2 hours. Well, partly because you're looking at the clock, and they say you shouldn't look at a clock if you're waiting for the time to pass. It just goes slower. But really, the time isn't going slower. It's still moving. It's just perception. You're looking at it. So clearly that plays a role. So maybe that's the case. Maybe it was you were looking at the clock. I don't know. What was it? What'd you do during the break?
I ran to get a drink so I could clear my throat.
Were you looking at a watch or a clock or something on the way to the kitchen to get the water? Or
yes,
what?
I was.
That would do it.
I got 5 minutes.
Well, guess what? That would do it.
Yeah.
That would do it.
I did it. I got it back.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Glad to be back, though. We've got a lot to go. We've got a lot to talk about. We really do. And we're going to start things off with the first item on the itinerary here. And this actually has to do with you and I. It does. Because we talk. That's what we do on the show. That's what any host or co-host would do. They would talk in order for you would talk to intrigue or entertain or try to entertain an audience. So this plays a role. Now, and it's great that this has been brought up, because even though more than likely you think of an idea and you're like, oh, you know, somebody must have already come up with this idea. Somebody had to come up with this idea. Or you think of a topic, you're like, ooh, I'm going to write about this topic. Or, ooh, I'm going to talk about this topic. You know, somebody had to have already come up with this. Somebody had to have already talked about this. Somebody had already written about this, right? Well, in this case, while Ronnie and I talk about a plethora of topics, clearly it goes a lot further. That intriguing you, you, and you, those of you tuned in, it goes a lot further than just you being entertained by what we talk about, but more along the lines of how we talk, how we sound, our tonation, how quick or slow we talk, the type of words we use, filler words. An interesting study, actually. I'm glad. I tell you, you're definitely at your all-time best with this one, Ronnie, because this is an awesome study. It really is an awesome article. It's so awesome that I might even, take from this article, but also more, and maybe research more and write about it even. But it is awesome. Talks about how, you may want to be heard out there, but the way you talk has a way, or has somewhat of a way people, how they perceive you, how they maybe think of you, what they think of you. I mean, are you persuasive when you talk? Are you not persuasive when you talk? Well, maybe it's the way you talk. And that's what the study goes into. So we're going to talk a bit about this here. But Ronnie, before you researched this right here, before you even read this article, did it ever maybe appeal to you that the way somebody talks could have a lot to do with whether or not they're persuasive, or maybe whether or not they are even liked?
I mean, if you think about, I have people that I have here that I've talked to when I was in the retail business. They would come in, and if there was one girl that had the highest pitched voice that you would think a champagne glass would bust and all the windows were going to break out. You just could not hang on to those words. You wanted her out of your face as quick as possible.
Right.
That was annoying. You could not understand her, let alone because you were thinking all the whole time about how her voice was. You just couldn't do it. Then I had to think about how I speak, because being from the Midwest, then I go to the New Jersey, then I come back to the Midwest. We talk fast in the Midwest, real fast. I don't know what the issue is. No matter where I'm at, where I go, oh, you're from Missouri, oh, you're from the Midwest, because we speak fast. That also turns people off, I know, and I've had to learn to try to slow down when I notice that I'm just speaking way too fast, because people will tune you out.
Absolutely. And it's just you notice when people, and it's, I guess, in the broadcasting industry and in this industry, how one perceives you. It goes a lot further than obviously what you talk about. We know based on this study, but it's more than even the way you talk. It's your personality, so much more. It's so much more. It's how you talk about certain things too. But getting into the way you talk. And people think, all right, A broadcaster has to be articulate. A broadcaster has to speak quick and articulate. That's not necessarily the case. You don't want to necessarily you don't want to put yourself on a pedestal. In other words, you don't want to necessarily make yourself feel like you're God opposed to the listeners. You don't. But the speed at which you talk has nothing to do with it. People think, okay, broadcasters have to talk fast. They don't. And that's what I always tell people when I hear that they're speaking quick just because they're trying to live or they're trying to live the definition of what people perceive a broadcaster as being. No. I try and tell people, slow it down. First off, when you're speaking quick and you don't have the techniques down to speak quick, in other words, you are not articulate. There's a difference between being articulate and being over-articulate. In other words, you're trying to literally stretch out every single word you're saying. There's a difference there. You be articulate. You don't want to have a lazy mouth, because I notice a lot of people that have lazy mouth, you tell when they're saying certain words, they're just dwelling upon the laziness of the word. Not good if you're a host or a broadcaster. It's horrible. It's a broadcaster's worst nightmare. Slow it down if you notice that. Slow it down. You don't have to speak quick. It's like if you think the definition of you is going as a broadcaster is going to be speak quick. No, don't. If you don't have the techniques down, speak slow and work your way up if you want, but speak slow. You don't have to speak quick. Getting into the way somebody talks, though, and they went into this in this study here, talking about how telemarketers, when they speak quick versus when they speak slow, has quite a bit to do with whether or not somebody that's listening to this telemarketer speak, whether or not they're going to make a sale or get the person on the other end involved with a study or a survey, plays a major role in the study, in this factor, in what we're talking about here, and also the tonation, how they sound, plays a major role. So now people that are hiring telemarketers have to take all of this into account, if they haven't already taken this into account.
Right. Because nothing is the biggest turn off when, of course, I don't like telemarketers in the first place because they do annoy you. But
well, there you go. There you go, Ronnie. You just said they annoy you. What annoys you about them? The tonation of their voice, or just that they're a telemarketer? Because if they're just if it's just because they're a telemarketer, I don't buy that for a moment.
When they call, you could tell they're reading from a card. It's a script.
Right. All right, then. There you go.
And it drives me absolutely bonkers, because you're going to use the same spiel on me that you're going to use on the next 100 people that you call. The same thing, the same tone, the same everything. You can tell when they're reading from a script, or when you cannot pronounce my name right. That also turns me off. But I think it's the biggest part is that you know what they're saying is scripted. There's no emotion in their voice. It's da 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 da. And what do you think about da 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 da? Nothing is. There is no emotion in this. It's just one word right after the other, the same monotone thing, and they don't even know what they're talking about. Nothing.
Right.
So if you ask them questions, you turn their conversation around. They have no clue as to what you just asked them, because they're just reading from a card.
Well, they're monotone because they're maybe. They're not good at their job, perhaps. And I've noticed it, too, when telemarketers call. But also, I've been on the phone with very good telemarketers. Telemarketers that are, and clearly you haven't, but I have. Yeah. I've been on the phone with very good ones. Those that you could tell are not reading from a script. In other words, they're reading from the script. And the companies have told them to read from scripts. In other words, I use the broadcasting industry. I use this industry because that's what I know about. That's the industry I'm in. So I know when a company, in other words, an advertiser, gives you a script to read from, they want you to read from that script. If you're going to improvise that script, you better damn well make sure you do a damn well good job doing it. Really, you better, because they will turn you down. They will shut you down. If you're not going to use their script, that's basically like an insult to them. You're not using what they created for you to reach your audience. Clearly, they feel that script works. If you don't use it, you better make sure you get a lot of sales from the improvisation. So when they use that approach, Ronnie, The company wants them to do that. They require them to do that, reading from a script. Now, the good telemarketers may be able to sound like they're not reading from the script. They're reading from it, but they don't sound like they are. Right. And that's difficult to do for anybody. When you're reading something, more than likely you could tell when somebody's reading off of an article. You could tell when somebody's reading off of a script. It's whether or not you read off of that script or that article that you sound like you're actually speaking. You're not necessarily speaking when you're reading from an article. That's a challenge. For instance, you read something like this, off of an article. I'll read something. Yeah, I'm going to read it as it would be actually read from the article. The researchers also found that animated speakers with lots of pitch variation in their voices would do better. Not the case. All right? Right there I read exactly how it is in the article right there. If I were to say, read this article here, and I were to say, read it to you, and don't want to sound like I'm actually reading the article, I would want to add, say, filler words. I would want to, and not like or I'm talking about just extra words in the sentences that make it sound like it's coming from me and not from the article. You just, for instance, when you see a quote, you're going to say quote. You're going to add just certain words to it. Add in just certain words. What would you do to that sentence to make it your own? What would you do to that sentence to make it unique? Because you could tell when somebody does read off of an article or read from a book or read from a script, more than likely.
Yeah, but you can also put life into it. You have to put some kind of reality into it. You sit there reading like research, hey, Miss Messer, did you know that research, you're bringing them into the whatever you're reading off the script. You're bringing that person into it. I would be more apt if you were going to ad lib that way that we can actually carry on a conversation that your side is not going to be so broken down to where you're limited at what you're saying. And if you're bringing me into it, you're addressing me as a person and not a specific phone number because you just happened to, the computer happened to randomly pick my phone number, that would be different. If you just did not focus solely on that card, because I think that's the clincher of getting somebody's attention, is that you're bringing the person that you're talking to into it, that they're just not a number. They're not just, a potential sale.
Right.
That is what would assist with me. And that's the same thing when you're in the retail business, when you're trying to sell an item or you're trying to get, based on, if you're selling, car wash books or whatever like that, you have to bring that customer into it. You're looking at them, you're seeing what you could use as far as that individual into what you're selling. How can you combine those two together to make this person know that this is what they want, regardless if that was their first instinct when they come into your business? Right.
Well, again, that is a very that's challenging because I use the same analogy as what a broadcaster would do if an advertiser wanted them to read a script. If they're going to improvise, they better make sure that they get sales. If the telemarketer is going to improvise, they better make sure that their turnover ratio is positive. Otherwise, they could be fired. It's not so much verbatim, or it's more verbatim for them if they're going to say what they're saying because they're reading it off of a script. Word for word, just whoa, okay, that's scripted. You could tell they're reading word for word. You're not going to get a sale out of me. It's the same old spiel. I could tell because you're reading it off of a script. It's whether or not you could do exactly what I said, and you brought up a good point. How could you use that script and use your life experiences, what you know, while still reading off of the script, but not sounding like you're reading off of the script, but adding a bit of your own to it. You could still, and it's improvising, and how I look at improvising is throwing the script away, not even looking at it, and simply reading from your heart. While versus reading from the script, you're maybe adding some words, you're maybe being personal, you're maybe being kind, you're adding some emotion to it. You're not improvising. I guess you're kind of improvising because you're adding certain things to it. But it's not typical improvisation. Excuse me. It's not, because you're not throwing it away. They require you to read off of a script. So it's whether or not you could do exactly what I said before, and that's add certain words. For instance, when you hear me speak, when you hear me read an article, you'll hear me add now to it a lot. You'll hear me add now to sentences rather than just read the sentences straightforward, just so I could sound as I'm not reading it off of an article. And I'll do that a lot. I'll do that a lot when I'm reading an article, just to make it sound a bit more like my own. Because rather than, and yeah, a lot of what I say, opinionated, and I'm not looking at a script right now, but if I'm reading off of an article, more than likely I need to base my thoughts off of facts or such from the article. I can't, I can give you my own thoughts, but I'm reading an article just to improve my opinion based off of the fact or whatever the article is, of course, giving to me, and then for me to give to you, and so forth.
And I think that another thing that is a turn off as far as paying attention to somebody is if they have some kind of a tick that's going on, such as, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? You understand what I mean?
Right.
That that annoys the heck out of me, because I don't understand what you mean, but you're telling me I do understand what you mean. It's that they're, you understand, you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Right.
That is a tick that I think that I just kind of...
Well, any tick would be annoying. Verbal
that was
ticks,
annoying.
anyone would be. It goes, for instance, I had a problem, and I still do, although I'm working on it, with the word okay. I'll use that a lot, and I've went back to previous episodes. Listeners have emailed me and say, you say okay a lot, JJ. That was a problem with me. It was a tick. I used to have a problem with what if and like and so forth. My best friend judged me in my studio. Ooh. In my studio while I was doing a show. You say like too many times, man. In my studio to my face. So he really got in my face, and he stopped me from saying like. He was up front. He wasn't going to hide anything, and I did say like a lot. And I don't say okay that much anymore. I'm working on just focusing on what I'm saying, and that's difficult for a speaker. It's okay to add a few, for instance, filler words to what you're saying. It's fine every now and then. When you're speaking, you're not going to read it as an article would write it. You're not going to obviously say or speak that way, because, well, you'd sound like you're just, it's verbatim. In other words, you're not. Right. You want to add some filler words. You want to sound realistic, and there's that line, the balance between that, and that's hard. It's hard for a telemarketer. It's hard for a broadcaster. It's hard for you speaking to somebody else. It's hard for you when you're talking to somebody, when you're ordering a pizza. It's just, you gotta. That's a challenge. People think it's trivial to be able to speak, but it's not as trivial as you think. There's quite a bit of challenge. There's a difference between speaking and speaking correctly and speaking with emphasis while doing it correctly. There's big differences.
Right. Because speaking is communication.
Right.
So you have to make sure that the message is being sent across and the message is being received. That making every period of a sentence into a question mark is something else that I think that is that's a big no-no. Every time there's a period at the end of a sentence and you hear somebody utilize it as a question mark. I don't care what it is they say, it's always a question. That I think is that's a biggest tick. I think that probably annoys me the most is that they turn that period into a question mark that isn't really there. They kind of like, at the end of the duh, and I don't know, just the for way they say it. I think the person that does it the most, and it has to do with the television program, is Will and Grace. Christine that's on there, she has a really, really high-pitched voice, and everything's a question.
Exactly. A good point. Good point you brought up there. And this is something that I'm going to bring up that I'm basing it off of the article here. Great article on time.com that it goes into what we're talking about here, about speaking and how to speak, the way you speak and so forth. Disfluency is something that I want to go into. When you talk about pausing, this is, and many people would say if you pause a lot, that's disfluent. It's not, you're not speaking fluently. You may not speak quick, but you're speaking maybe slow with pauses. that, as they found in this study for telemarketers, actually benefits the telemarketers more so than if they speak, say, quick with even pauses, but speaking slower with pauses. While it may be disfluent, some of you may be annoyed by it, but they found out that the turnover ratio is better off for the telemarketers when they spoke slow and with pauses.
I can see. I thought the opposite before I read that, because when you're talking slow and you have that pause,
that's the challenge there.
I don't want to have to hang on to that word, hoping that there's another word that I can hang on to.
Right, but
to
there's
grab a hold of that. That's what I thought.
There's the draw between speaking like that and also speaking slow, and you can speak slow but with pauses, but not necessarily drag out the words. You can speak slow while still saying the words the way they're supposed to be said. So you could speak, for instance, I could speak slow like this rather than I could speak slow like this or speak quick like this or whatever. It depends on how you're going to say a sentence and so forth. There are times when I'm talking, and I know I said I could speak slow like this when I sped it up. I meant fast. But when I speak, there are some times when I will speak a bit slower for certain things. Maybe I'm not as sure on the topics as I would be for other ones, where I'll speak quicker for those, as opposed to the one where I'm speaking a bit slower. That's just part of speaking and a part of certain things that I've learned. I've learned a lot from my vocal coach. I'm also a voiceover artist, so I've worked on many of the words. That's why you might notice I'm quite articulate when I speak. It's just, I've worked on it. Certain people may be quicker, less articulate, but that's how they speak. However, it's who you are. But now with this study, changing maybe the way you speak, because you may be noticing people aren't looking at you the way you want to be looked at, or you're not as persuasive as you'd like to be. Maybe changing the tone of your voice or changing how you speak isn't such a bad thing. Or do you want to have self-respect for yourself and say, listen, I'm not going to change who I am. I'm not going to change the way I speak. Or are you really changing the way you are? You're still going to be you. You're just improving how you speak, similar to the type of words you use. Enhance your vocabulary even. You're not changing who you are. You're just enhancing who you are. And that's how I look at it. That's just how I look at it. We do have to move on, though, to the next item. We are running short on time. But what we're going to do first, before heading into the next item on the itinerary, I'd like to thank our sponsor, This portion of the 275th episode of Take Two is brought to you by Audible.com, and we thank Audible for their support of the Take Two program as well as the Voices on the Net network. Now listen up, folks, because Ronnie and I have a great deal for you, an excellent deal for you. You're going to want to stay tuned as to what I'm going to be telling you. Ronnie and I are going to be giving to you here. You're going to receive one free audiobook at a 14-day, a 2-week free trial to browse the immense selection of audiobooks offered at Audible.com. There's over 85,000 and counting, always adding new books to the service. Really a great service, the premier service on the internet here. To receive your free audiobook and a 14-day free trial, you don't have to spend a dime. You go to audibletrial.com/take2. audibletrial.com/take2 to take advantage of this offer. You will be glad you did. Seriously. As always, we thank Audible for their support of the Take Two program as well as the Voices on the Net network. Once again, the link is audibletrial.com/take2. All right, Ronnie, let's head into this next item right here. And we actually went into this. We've went into this before and in detail on a previous episode of the show. But let's go more into this here. When you talk about the online troll, obviously trolls in real life, people that are just, they don't care what they say. You could tell they're the center of attention, but they're doing it in a negative way. Whereas online trolls, there's a bit of anonymity involved. You don't know who they are, and you could tell, or maybe you can't, and that's what we're going to be talking about here, whether or not somebody is a troll or not. You talk about that factor, right?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of tough to tell them apart, but except I think they do give themselves away because usually if you're talking about, let's just say you're in chat and the topic is about one specific thing, then they come in and they want to hurry up and take control of that topic. They take the whole entire room, regardless of what it is, and just sends us completely spiraling into a room. The same thing. I've been on YouTube where I would take on conversations and you're talking about one specific thing. They come on completely out of nowhere and will bring up something that just terrorizes your entire conversations. They want to take charge. But if they were in real life in front of you
Right.
and you're staring them down, they're the first ones to turn their backs and walk away. But not online because they don't have that opportunity, and nor will they take that opportunity to do so.
Right. It goes with saying, because people have a way of being the center of attention online, that it's been the case for some time. The internet's been around for long enough for people to know, listen, I know how to get under this person's skin, and I don't even know them. I can structure my sentence to irritate the heck out of you, and it works in so many ways. And people that are on the internet will we call it feeding the trolls here. We do. It's if you believe me, if you're on the internet a lot, you go to YouTube, you go to the forums, you're in a chat room regularly, you play video games online. You know all about feeding the trolls. In other words, you're giving them what they want. You're giving them the light of day. That's what they want from you. They're trying to get a rise out of you. They want you to give them the time of day. They do. If they get your attention, well, they're going to continue doing what they're doing. If they don't, well, the chances are they'll move on. If they don't, well, then they're just more consistent than the average troll, maybe. But doesn't necessarily mean you have to give them the time of day. You can still ignore them.
Right.
What's the point of giving your time to somebody who is just trying to irritate you? They're not adding anything whatsoever to whatever they're trying to comment on. They're not adding a darn thing. This is where the line is drawn, though, because the definition of the troll is so perceived online as somebody that's simply just trying to irritate you, that there are people that are trying to add to the conversation, but they're perceived as a troll because of how they speak. They may use curse words, but they add to the conversation. That's where this article comes in, and that's where I don't think we went into this in detail back when we talked about this. I can't quite remember.
Nope.
We've talked about so much on the show. But how can you deal with a troll, not feeding them, but finding out whether or not they are one? How can ask questions, be calm. Don't feed them, but be calm when you're talking to them. Speak to them as they are, somebody that's on, I want to say, the same level as you, because clearly the troll is not on the same level as you.
Right.
If you feed them, maybe you are, but you want to rise above them while still talking to the troll, but finding out whether or not they really are one or not.
Usually if you make them explain, such as just using this one word, and that's called really, on their point of view when they're coming into a room, or whether or not they're on your webpage, Facebook, regardless, and they state whatever they're going to state, which is out of the ordinary, that you just ask them one question, really, and then they want to explain their portion. It kind of ends the trollism right there. However, you still have those few people, and one name comes to mind is, if you play WoW, Man Todd. How many times this guy has been, I bet you everybody on every server knows who this guy is. He is a very famous troll. And sometimes that is what they look for, and that is what they want. They want they're not famous in real life. Right. They don't have anything in real life, only in the internet world, to where they're completely blank. It's just what they perceive.
Right.
And I think if we give them a time of day on a lot of things, they can take over because that's their agenda. But then there are those that are like they're wannabe trolls. But you can call them out at any point in time just using the word really, or why do you think like that, or what is it you're trying to state? And then all of a sudden they kind of turn around and become part of the group.
Right. It's funny that you brought that up because, this guy is notorious to the point where he's talked about in articles that are about World of Warcraft, that because it just seems that people feed into this guy. And Ronnie brings up a good point that they may not be famous in real life, but he has garnered Well, I don't know who would want that reputation. He does, apparently. But he has garnered that reputation that anytime, even though he is a troll and he may be making trollish comments, that people are actually treat him like a movie star because of what he's done. Now, I'm not saying go out, be trollish, and try and gain a reputation where you are treated like a real movie star. I'd rather you do the exact opposite, act like a human being and try to be a movie star. This guy just happened to do that. This guy just happened to be a troll for an extended period of time, do what he does, do what he did, and people are like, oh, I love you, man, Todd. Oh, you're such a joker. Oh, you're so awesome. Oh, man, Todd is epic. And he's trolling because he's created whatever he's created about himself, an image that, while a lot of people find him annoying, the one out of, say, 100 that say treats him like a movie star is going to stand out. It's going to stick out like a sore thumb. So it's a crazy world. I'm not saying go out and feed the trolls because that's what they want from you. It's just trying to discern the difference between a troll and somebody that is acting like your perception of a troll. How are they acting? They may be acting. They may be using certain words that trolls use regularly. They may be spamming. Trolls tend to spam a lot. If that's the case, well, that's easy to know. If somebody's spamming, well, what the first point of action is going to be to boot the heck out of them, and that's it. You're not giving them the time of day. You're booting them, talking about a chat room or banning them from a forum or wherever. But if somebody is acting as a troll would act, but they're trying to add to the conversation, using ways you would treat just any other person, trying to ask them questions, trying to just figure them out, trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, in other words.
And sometimes that's kind of hard because the monitor is so close to you, you can throw it across the room. But some of these people do annoy you.
Right.
Some are not intending to be a troll, but they do react in such a way, such as pop it into a room and they're writing in all caps. They want to be recognized immediately.
Right.
And that's the first assumption that you, as a person that's in the chat room, notice that when they're coming in there and they want to be noticed so bad, that there are already a target point to where either you ignore them or they are actually, booted out of the room because they don't conform. But, I haven't really come across a lot of major bad trolls, except for places that are known to have these trollish people, and they tend to want to become fantasized in their own world. And that's usually on YouTube when it has to do, for instance, a guy was killed in Joplin, Missouri, and he has great, YouTube stance on there, and he was very famous on YouTube.
Right.
And people are going on there, these specific trolls going on there and bashing him and how he passed away and so forth. Those are the trolls that really need to be just dealt with and done.
Right.
And done and over with. Those are the ones that are more harmful than the ones that are going around just playing around wanting to have attention.
Well,
These are more hurtful than anything else.
Well, that's where they tend to hang out. Forums, chat rooms, YouTube, so forth. If they hang out on YouTube, and usually you could tell a troll, especially on YouTube, because it could be a regular video, just an ordinary video of a child celebrating their birthday party, and the parents took a video of them blowing out the candles. And one comment will blatantly express how ugly the dog in the video is, or how bad the writing on the cake was, or how short the kid is blowing the candles out, or how bad the camera is, and so forth. Right. Maybe not so much that one, but the other ones. You could usually tell when a troll is a troll, and just by what they say, just in that scenario, and it's sad. It's sad that that has to be the case, because all the family's trying to do is show a great moment. That's all they're trying to do. And you really, really wonder how people can stoop as low as they do doing that. It's really, and we really base now more than ever human behavior off of the social media aspect. We really do.
Yeah.
And it shows that the anonymity factor also plays a role, too. They don't They know you don't know who they are. They know that. So they're going to take advantage of that, trying to get a rise out of you.
No, absolutely. They're going to do that all the time, especially when it has to do some kind of heartache that everybody is paying attention to, such as the recent disasters that occurred, and they just show up. That's what they want to do. But when you click on their name to go to their account, either it is completely blocked because they don't want you to know who they are, or
of course,
it's all falsified information, and they're just there for one reason only, and that is for their own amusement. But if you met them in real life, they would hide so far under a rock.
Oh, yeah.
It would be pathetic.
Oh, absolutely. How many times do you encounter a troll online and you see people commenting, geez, you're lucky that I don't see you in real life, buddy.
Yep.
And they don't comment back. They're doing it online, but 90% of those trolls, 95% or more even, of those trolls that are commenting online, saying what they're saying, would not even think twice about doing what they're doing online. And in some cases, I won't say many cases, because clearly a troll is a troll, and I'll go more into maybe the background. I went into this with Ronnie back when we talked about it the last time, in the past episode. But the troll that the trolls that are doing what they're doing, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on a forum, whether it's in a chat room, they're acting a fool because they maybe had a horrible upbringing. They're not getting enough love at home. They're not popular in, say, real life. There are factors behind that. Maybe not necessarily because they want to be a troll. Maybe because they have reasons that are forcing them to be that troll. Whereas if they were in real life, they wouldn't even think twice. They could even be normal. They could even be normal, which is what I had forgot originally what I was going to say. I had a brain fart. Now I remember what I wanted to say. They could be normal. They could be a normal person, a nice, kind person in real life. It's pretty crazy. All right. We do have to go to the blast from the past. I just wanted to get that out, Ronnie. I'm glad we did go into this, though. Again,
Me too.
I wanted to reiterate the fact because there was a great article that we did base this off of on, I believe it was CNN.com, how to respond to online haters. But we do have to go to the blast from the past. Ronnie and I go back into the past. One of the many discussions that Ronnie and I have delved into. So what do you say we take the time machine, Ronnie, into the past? You want to?
Take me away.
Take you away. All right, folks, everybody in the time machine, here we go. Enjoy. This is your blast from the past for episode number 275. Listen to this. This is thanks to the Frisky on CNN Living. Earlier this week, as of right now, a juror in a Connecticut murder trial was chastised by the judge for passing a note to the court-martial asking him for a date. Not your most traditional flirtatious moment, but you have to respect him for trying, right?
Yeah.
There are some pretty odd places people flirt. Some very not as traditional places. But what exactly is a traditional place? I mean, what, a bowling alley, a bar, a restaurant? What's a traditional place, Ronnie? You know?
No, that's true because opportunity strikes. You gotta.
Yeah, there's women there's women in courtrooms. There's women at funerals. There's women at the gym. There's women in the hospital waiting room. You've got women everywhere, and if you're a woman, there's males there as well.
Yeah.
You know, there could be a woman standing on the corner, and she doesn't necessarily have to be a prostitute either. The fact is that if the mood strikes you, and you feel that there's a connection of you eyed her or she eyed you or vice versa, whatever. And you decide you want to go up to the girl or the woman and you want to say hi and you want to strike a conversation, fine. But there are a considerable amount of inappropriate places to flirt. And, we're going to go over a few of these, but I want to get your 2 cents on this. And maybe one of the more untraditional, if there is even that. If there are even untraditional places in the first place, according to this, there are. But where you flirted before, Ronnie? I mean, I'm sure you've been flirtatious before. I mean, that's obvious. I'm not saying.
I've been flirtatious, but I think the most weirdest place that I was flirted with.
You were flirted. Oh, somebody flirted with you.
Yes.
Ah.
Yeah, I was a nurse for a period of time, and it involved having to insert a catheter, and this guy was flirting with me before it got to the point where I had to put the catheter in.
Wait, what? You redo that. Go into that again. You were inserting a catheter.
I had to, yes. He was having a procedure, and I had to insert this catheter. I came in there with all of my equipment.
Oh, my goodness.
Gloves, the whole 9 yards, and was flirting with me the whole time. Actually asked me out after the procedure was over.
What is this, Grey's Anatomy? Wow.
It kind of reminds you of that episode, doesn't it? Yes. That was probably the most strangest
Grey's
place
Anatomy
I had ever been.
Grey's Anatomy is a show, not an episode.
But this, show. This would be a good episode.
Well, yeah, Grey's Anatomy is... That the reason I brought that up is Grey's Anatomy is a medical drama, but that would happen on that show. I was going to bring up House, but Grey's Anatomy is more of that character-based drama where you'll see a doctor flirting with a patient. You know what I mean? That's how it is. I have to change that now because House has changed quite a bit since we talked about that. I'll tell you that House is more like Grey's Anatomy, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just House used to be more about the medical side of things, whereas Grey's Anatomy focused more on relationships, drama in that aspect. House is more along the lines of relationships, and they add the medical side, but they've definitely changed the scenario or the environment of House. They really have, while still maintaining House as a broken person, which I do respect them doing. Hahowever, I think sooner than later, House is going to be coming to an end, and we're going to probably see something big happen. Probably this upcoming. What are we upcoming? The 8th season coming up. I think season 8 for House. I think this may be the final season. I think even Lisa Edelstein plays Dr. Cuddy. Said she wasn't coming back, so they have to be coming to an end.
They have to do
here.
something.
Yeah, I don't know unless they strike a deal with her. As of right now, that's what I heard. But yeah. Blast from the past. Hope you enjoyed that, folks. That is all the time Ronnie and I have for this 275th episode of Take Two right here on the Voices on the Net Network. Remember, you could check out the live version. There's Ronnie and I behind the scenes. That's right, as we produce these shows or host these shows for you before, of course, producing them. Monday through Friday. That is right, from 1 p.m. Starting at 1 p.m., technically 1 p.m. If we start a little later, it's not out of the ordinary. But, yes, you can check us out there. Also, go to www.vonthenet.com for your Voices on the Net network fix. All right, Ronnie, we have to hightail it out of here, but we'll be back for the next episode to do it all over again, which happens to be the Friday edition of the show, where we will feature your movie report. And we're looking forward to that. Find out what movie Ronnie goes to see. I'm sure we'll review it for you. But we do have to go. But until next time, bye-bye, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Bye.